Hey everybody, this is Chief Paul Rickard, and this is the November 2022 edition of Coffee with the Chief. And this month, I'm really excited to be able to have join me the newly elected Sheriff of Orange County, Paul Artetta. And he's going to talk to us today about his ideas for the Sheriff's Office moving forward and his past career. And we're really excited to have him join us.
Good morning, Chief.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for coming. So I can't imagine anyone that doesn't know you. There's been a million mailings about you in the last few months. But for anyone that might have been out of the country, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I was born in St. Luke's Hospital in Newburgh, and raised in Walkill, the hamlet of. Graduated Walkill High School. Went to college. Completed my bachelor's degree in Nyack College. And then from there, I took a test to become a correction officer at the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Did very well on the exam and got hired as a correction officer back in 1992.
Wow.
After, about a month on the job, I was signed up for the test for deputy sheriff. So interestingly enough, I was on probation, so I had to call in sick to take the test, and I got fired.
Really?
For taking the test.
Now, who was the sheriff at that point?
The sheriff at that time, I started with Jim Garvey.
Okay.
And then Frank Bigger was my second sheriff. So I got the termination. It stated that I had 5 days left. So on the third day, an inmate hung himself, and I saved his life. Cut him down. We got him to the hospital in time. And I got a letter of commendation and a letter of 5-day suspension instead of a termination.
Wow.
So I wouldn't be here today if I didn't save that inmate's life.
Wow. That's a crazy story.
Yeah.
Being just in the right time,
the right
place at the right time for your career and for someone's life,
Absolutely.
Which is amazing. I've never heard that story.
Yeah, he came back to the jail and thanked me for saving his life. But after that, I did very well on the police test. Purchased a home in Orange County and started as a deputy sheriff in 1994. I've worked in just about every division of the sheriff's office. I started out in the courts when we had the county court and family court. I did both county court and family court, and then was assigned down to the Newburgh Social Services, and then went to the police academy in Rockland. And after graduating that, I was moved to the 3-11 shift. Did a few years at that. Around the county, I was assigned to different zones. This was my first zone, and then my second zone was the south side of the county, and then I settled in down in the Newburgh area where I have a lot of family, so it was a little bit easier to work down there, knowing the streets and knowing a lot of the people down there. From there, I was moved into the investigations division. I did pistol permits. I did a lot of work with the different police agencies when we had crime scene guys. Myself and Stevie McElroy worked together for a long time doing that, handling a lot of the burglaries throughout Orange County, and other crimes as well. From there, I got promoted to sergeant after Carl Du Bois took office. I was in charge of the road patrol for a period of time before I was moved over to the investigations division as their sergeant. While I was assigned to investigations, I had the unique opportunity to get assigned to the FBI Safe Streets Task Force. I was the first one ever to be assigned to this. So
Well, now, is Jim Galliano still there?
No, Jim Galliano was our SSRA at the time. He was the one that was pitching it to everybody. I didn't know him at the time.
Yep. He was a guest 2 months ago on the show. Yeah, he was on
That
2.
must have been a lively
It was.
podcast.
He was great. He was great.
Jimmy's great.
Yeah.
So he came and he pitched it to the sheriff, and they selected me, and I worked there 5 years. We did some pretty substantial stuff. We received a lot of awards from the FBI for the work that we did, and we even created a system of following all of the people that we had charges against.
Okay.
And we shared it with all the Safe Street task forces around the country. So that was something to be very proud of. We worked together very well. We had police officers from the city of Newburgh, city of Middletown, Dutchess County, state police. We all worked together so well.
Jim was a good pitchman. Like you couldn't really say no to Jim. I remember, just a quick aside, I was, Matt Byrne was the chief of Middletown, I was his number 2, and we were in a, before he was meeting with Jim, he goes, we can't afford to send anyone, you know, I'm just going to have to, because we knew what it was all about. And he came out of the meeting and he goes, okay, we got to pick somebody. And we ended up, Charlie Nyland was
Charlie
picked.
was great.
But it was,
retired.
yeah, he just a couple weeks ago, right, a month ago. So it was just kind of one of these funny stories. He says, I couldn't say no. I mean, he just made such an awesome case for why we needed to be a part of this. And I told him we would. And
Jimmy was a hands-on guy.
Yeah.
And he picked a bunch of hands-on guys.
Yeah, it was great.
We all worked very
And
well
people in
together.
Orange County really were the beneficiaries of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're lucky.
Yeah, we were very lucky to have that task force. The task force is still in existence
sure.
today, doing a lot of good work.
Yep.
From there, I was promoted to lieutenant, and I was tasked by the DA and the sheriff to create the Orange County Drug Task Force, to reinvent it. It was here in the 80s and then kind of faded out, and we brought it back, and it's still in effect today and doing a lot of good work.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I ran on, was to help advance that unit because of the large number of overdoses in our county.
Yeah.
From there, I did 3 years as a lieutenant for narcotics. I was promoted to captain of the patrol side, and we did a lot of good work. We did a lot of changes. One of the changes, we got Wi-Fi at the sheriff's office. My biggest complaint was my guys were going, and gals were going to McDonald's to get Wi-Fi. They would go near a store to get Wi-Fi. They can't go to their law enforcement agency and get Wi-Fi. So we had Wi-Fi installed, and a lot of new nuances to help all of our deputies before I retired in 2020. And in January of 2021, I started as deputy police chief in the village of Montgomery.
Okay.
And I've been deputy police chief ever since, and ran for election, was
here
very
you are.
successful in the primary, successful in the general election, and here I am.
All right. So now, I guess I don't know the complete history of everybody that precedes you at the sheriff's office in terms of being the sheriff, but man, that's got to be probably one of the most well-rounded sheriff's office careers, because everybody was an outsider, right? Carl was an outsider, Bigger was an outsider, Garvey was an outsider, Phillips was an outsider, right? So are you the first like homegrown sheriff?
I'm the first homegrown sheriff to start from, corrections, work my way through the ranks.
Do you think that'll make you a better sheriff, or do you don't think it makes a difference?
Well, we're going to find out.
I guess we will.
I believe it does help. I know a lot of what's going on. I know a lot of the people. There's a lot of great people that work at the sheriff's office. I got to give them credit because that place runs. They maintain their accreditations. It's not the sheriff, not the undersheriff. It's the people below them that are doing a lot of the work and maintaining everything. Just like here.
Yeah, sure.
Without
Marie, you can't. Nothing gets done. It's true. It's true. So I think it's interesting too. You started on the correction side, which is probably, I don't know if previous sheriffs have been on both sides. Well, probably at one time they did both, right? But
when I started in corrections, I didn't know what the heck I got myself into, and I actually did it. I was working at Pepsi for a while, and we went on strike. So from there, I went and worked at a Grand Union plant, and a lot of my friends from high school were working at the jail, and they said, "Yeah, you have to take the test. So I took it, and I had no idea what I was getting into. But another interesting story, when I first got into jail, they teach you everybody's innocent in jail.
Right.
So I met this one gentleman that he was arrested for a murder, and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He came from Florida. He would transport celery back and forth. He was a trustee. So in each tier we had 17 prisoners on either side, 34 prisoners total, and you had to select one.
And we're talking about the old jail on Erie.
When you're actually cranking numbers and rolling to open the gates.
Sure.
So there's one person that's selected to be the trustee. They take care of the toiletries, cleaning, and doing all that stuff. So he would sit with me in my office, and we'd have like a little chat every day. And he would tell me that he was innocent. So one day he went to court and never came back. So I get done at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I walk outside. He's standing outside waiting for me. And he just wanted to tell me that all his charges were dropped. He was one person.
That's interesting.
So right there, I understood that not everybody's innocent in jail, but
Once in a while.
Once in a while, you have a hiccup.
Wow, that's a great story too. So, law enforcement wasn't your first choice? So basically, a strike at Pepsi is what brought you into this?
Yeah. We went on strike. We were with the Teamsters at the time, and my father was a union worker. My older brother, a union worker. They're plumber, steam fitter, welders, and I wasn't going to cross the line, the picket line, and we were out of work basically after about a year of picketing and doing all that stuff. So I actually, it was a very good view for me to see what it's like to actually picket, and to see what now I'm protecting people when they picket.
Right, it's interesting.
So it was an interesting point of view to see that, and I moved on to a friend of ours. Her father was a supervisor at the Grand Union plant, so I went and worked there. I did electrical work my entire life since I was 14.
Wow.
My uncle started me out when I was 14 years old, and up until I ran, I pretty much cut it off. Didn't have a lot of time while I was running for election.
Okay. So you had I don't know, would you call it a hard-fought campaign? How would you describe the campaign?
3 tanks of gas in my truck a week.
Okay.
It was tough. I met a lot of people along my 30 years in law enforcement, and I met a great deal of people in the past 2 years. We were traveling to different towns just about every day. I would hit on a weekend 10 or 12 events.
Oh, I saw you all the time. You were on Facebook with pictures of everything, everywhere.
And we were doing that all along. My wife and I and my little one, we would go everywhere. We like to visit different places, go to different restaurants, talk to people. So it wasn't anything new. It was just more fast-paced. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I couldn't bring my wife. Sometimes I brought my little one to occupy her.
So now this was did you know this going in? Like, were you prepared for that? Because that's a...
No, I saw it from the outside. I've been a member in our Republican committee in Montgomery for about 20 years. And I saw the helpful side, where we help people to advance in their elections. So now, knowing that and doing the part that I had done, it's a lot of work.
Now, did you ever wake up in the morning and your wife or your daughter at the breakfast table says, "Dad, Paul, like, that's it, we're out, we can't do this anymore"? Did you ever get to that point? Or
I had to separate the political stuff. I maintain, I bring my daughter to school in the morning, so we see each other in the morning, and then in the afternoon we pick her up, and when we have family time, it's family time. We try to stay away from the politics as much as possible. A lot of phone calls, a lot of texts. So sometimes, my head was in the clouds. Yeah. But
so, is there a lesson learned from the campaign that you would be able to impart on others, or that you would use it for yourself moving forward?
Make sure you have a lot of time. And pay attention to your family. I made sure that I did that throughout. It's tough,
Now, did you ever sit down with your family beforehand where you laid this all out and said, "Hey, this is what's going to entail"?
I have 2 older children as well, and I said, "Listen, it could be a spectacle. They may put my name out there. They're going to call me different things and say different bad things about your dad. You know your dad. Your dad isn't, And
that's probably easy for the older ones, but your younger ones, what, 10, 12?
Yeah, we would keep her away. Some of the other campaigns that they were really throwing bad stuff at each other, my little one actually knew, some of the people that were campaigning, and she would come to me, "Is he really that bad?" And I'm like, "No, it's hard to explain politics to a child."
It's funny you say that. My 2 boys are in high school, and sometimes they get off and they come home from school and they get the mail and they'd say the same thing, like, "Dad, don't you know this guy? Like, look at all these things." And I'm like, it's politics.
I even got some flyers about.
It's kind of funny.
And my daughter goes, "Those pictures are nice, Dad."
So moving forward, what's your vision now for the sheriff's office after January 1st?
We want to do a lot of good programs. We want to help out. We don't have a lot of inmates any longer because of the reforms, and it's difficult to get those the ones that make a pit stop for a short period of time that you could get a GED in or some type of other training. But the ones that we have in there now, we want to stop them from going out and committing other crimes, whether they're going to prison or they're successful in their cases and they get released. We want to teach them how to reacclimate back to society. We call it RTS. We want to give them the tools that they need to apply for a job. We want them to have the ability to go back and be a family member and not be, hanging out on the street, going back to the stuff that they were doing in the past. So we've looked at a lot of different programs, and we're going to start working on that from day one, getting those instituted in the, especially in the jail, working with our mental health partners in the county, and helping out all the different population that we have in there. I've spoken to several different labor unions, the carpenters, electricians, laborers. They have programs where they'll come in and they'll actually start giving a little brief discussion with the inmates to describe the different union labor to see if they want to join that, because that's where we're lacking today. Everybody seems to think that we have to send our kids to college. A lot of the labor unions, very well paid, very good benefits.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes we're making in this country right now, is saying, like, everybody doesn't have to go to college. Everyone shouldn't go to college. There's people that, and that shouldn't be taken as a bad thing. Like, there's, try to get a plumber to your house. Try to get an electrician to your house. Like, it's almost impossible.
My older brother, plumber, welder, steam fitter. I'm the cop.
Right.
My younger brother, he's a bigwig in healthcare.
Right.
And my little brother's an engineer at Central Hudson. I mean, we're all different.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's crazy. What are you going to do for the people here in the town of Mount Hope and the small towns and the big cities here in Orange County, or bigger cities in Orange County? What do you see your role help us out?
Well, there's a lot of things that we can do right off the bat. We built a firing range for our law enforcement, for all of our law enforcement, and that's what we're going to use it for. After 9/11, we learned that we should all be working together and training together, and that's what we're going to do. We want to get the police academy recruits down there. We have a state-of-the-art range, and we need to get a lot of the good training down there for all of the police agencies. We have a lot of instructors at the sheriff's office. We want to get back to the police academy to have Orange County law enforcement teach Orange County law enforcement, as well as some of the other counties that come and attend our academy. We also want to get the deputies out there doing more, especially in the communities where either there's a short number of police or there's no law enforcement whatsoever. At least, the presence of law enforcement deters crime. So that's a big thing that we want to do. And
I know, like, listen, you don't get to write your own check. You have a legislature and a county executive you got to get the money from. But even like the things like the crime scene, you mentioned that before. For a small agency like Mount Hope or Village of Montgomery, or many of the smaller agencies, you don't have a crime scene unit, and to be able to, like, that's something, again, I'm sure you have a lot of pulls and pushes and stuff, but a lot of those little things over the last years, that would really be helpful for the community members.
There's with the burglaries, a lot of them go unsolved for whatever reason, and some of the reasons are it's just very difficult sometimes. Especially if somebody knows the location. But we give some solace, at least going in there. Somebody's invaded your personal space, and today that person, even if he's caught, he's out.
Right.
So at least we give some solace by investigating these crimes, and if we solve a good portion of them, that's great. If we, I helped a lot of different law enforcement agencies, including Mount Hope, in the past, and we found guns. We found a lot of different things that were stolen from people's houses.
Yep.
And it's a great benefit. The state police do a great service to the community. They handle a lot of the major crimes, and we want them to concentrate on major crimes. So as a sheriff's office, we can concentrate on the lesser crimes to help them out and supplement.
I don't think people realize how short-staffed law enforcement really is. Like the state police numbers, finally they're starting to bring them up a little bit. The local PDs, it's hard to get people. You see in Montgomery to find part-time officers. It's hard. Law enforcement has changed so much in the last 5 years.
Part-time is the most difficult thing. I see the city of Newburgh wants to bring in part-time law enforcement. You're coaxing them to come to work every day. They maintain other jobs if they're part-time. They're more attentive to their full-time job than the part-time job. So it's you're coaxing them to come to work.
And part of the thing too is with the changes in the law, the changes in the requirements, it makes it more and more difficult. It's the hardest thing I do is trying to recruit, and we're constantly recruiting. So if you're looking for a job, send me a resume. But
well, you and I both, we work with the human resources in the county to go around, and I think we increased the numbers that signed up for the test.
Yeah.
Which was a great thing. It was from our backgrounds. We have different backgrounds.
Sure.
You came from Middletown to here, and I have the sheriff's office, I have Village of Montgomery. I've seen small agency, big agency, and all the different changes, and I think we imparted a lot of information on the younger generation that wants to get in law enforcement, but they're kind of tainted by the press.
Yeah, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. Who would you say is your biggest inspiration?
My dad.
Why is that?
My dad worked his tail off. He missed some of our sporting events. He missed a lot of different things. He worked his tail off to make sure that we had a house, a swimming pool. We had everything that we could imagine. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all that other nonsense. But the things that we had, I mean, just his work ethic, going to work every day. The man never got up and said, I feel like crap. Even if, he felt like crap, he went to work.
I think it's the era too. Like my dad was the same way. Never complained. Just got up every day and went to work and busted his butt to put food on the table and to provide. And
my dad's 82. He's out. He's got a gym membership. He goes swimming in the mornings. He goes in the malls and he walks around the malls. If it's nice out, he walks outside. I mean, just to see at 82 years old, still doing it.
That's amazing. So what do you think are some important traits for someone in law enforcement? You talk about your dad and his traits. What is some of the law enforcement traits that you're looking for in hiring a deputy or hiring a police officer currently in Montgomery?
I think you have to be honest, as foremost. You have to have integrity. But you have to be like us. We don't panic. There may be panic inside our guts, but we have to make decisions not based on our fear of what's going on or our lack of intelligence on what's going on, and just calmly, making sure that everything works. A lot of the great generals in history, if they panicked, the troops would see that and respond in kind. And I think just my demeanor alone, even throughout my campaign, that's the way I supervise. There's no reason to yell.
No.
If you made a bad decision, come and tell me why you made a bad decision, and we'll work through that. Just make a decision.
Yeah, I think you've run a very level-headed campaign, very even-keeled. You're, dealing with you at the sheriff's office over the years, very even-keeled, never one to get excited.
And it's also a curse because being that level-headed and having an open door policy, a lot of people lay a lot of stuff on you, but it's also a good thing because maybe you can make their day a little bit brighter. They had a fight with their wife before they came to work, or the baby was up all night.
Sure.
You make their day a little bit brighter, you encourage them a little bit, and they get out there and they do the best job possible.
Now, you said 1992. Jim Garvey was the sheriff. You worked for Jim and Frank and Carl. And I'll say this, Carl Du Bois, from the outside, this is an outsider looking in, did an amazing job really reinventing that sheriff's office. I think he did a great job, with the sheriff's office and really making significant changes. That's from an outsider's view. From the inside, what do you think has been the biggest change at the sheriff's office or in law enforcement since 1992 to today?
Well, when we started,
you didn't have air conditioning in the cars, right? It was
I
crazy.
had air conditioning.
You did, okay.
Prior to me, there was no air conditioning.
You're right. Think how crazy that is. You had Roberta Murphy browbeating people on the side of the road.
Yeah, we were up against the wall as far as doing law enforcement, and my whole thing from when I started, you can't treat us like light switches. If the town of Mount Hope needs a police presence, I can't send a deputy there that just does civil. I can't send a deputy there that just goes and transports prisoners and never ever does any police work. So they're deputy sheriffs. A lot of folks don't know they are police officers. They go through police training, and they do every facet of police work that a police officer does. So they have to get out there. They have to know all that stuff. we have a SWAT team. Those guys have to know how to do police work before they go out and they serve a warrant, or they save somebody from themselves. So that in the beginning, we were loose, to put it nicely. There wasn't a lot of policy. Like the policy I can hold between my two fingers back then. Field training, there was a lot of good guys, but it wasn't like the field training of today.
Of course.
When I went out and arrested somebody, you didn't get overtime to do the paperwork. So opening the file cabinet, looking at somebody else's arrest to see if you're doing it the right way.
Right. So the professionalism is really
back.
Yeah.
And I consider us that we're the New York Yankees. We're a bunch of clean-shaven, squared away guys. They should have a good presence when they come in to help or do their work, and they know the policies. They know what to do and what they can't do. And if there's a question, in the years past we had pagers, so we'd have to page something. We have to stop at a payphone and page Paul Rickard and say, "Hey Paul, I know you faced this. How'd you respond to it?" Today, they actually have a policy procedure that basically tells you every single step of the way to do everything.
Yeah.
So they have that at the palm of their hands, and then they have good, supervisors to help them with that.
Yeah, I remember back in the day working in Middletown Narcotics, you had, on the sheriff's side, Saul and John Corcoran and Flip, and you were there, and and it was kind of like a little bit more flexible, I guess, in terms of, our needs. Say, hey, we need guys, and boom, it was a quick turnaround. It seems like over the years, when it became more of a hierarchy, getting people allocated and requesting things and stuff. So I guess there's good and there's bad to some of that.
Yeah, there's laws and regulations and
right, sure.
And lawsuits.
Great, right.
We want to work with everybody. Somewhere along the lines, I think we got a little bit away from that, and we want to get back to it. There's more chiefs in this county than the sheriff, so it behoove us to all work together and accomplish all our goals.
Yeah, and I know as the president of the Police Chiefs Association, we're looking forward to working with you. I know the chiefs are excited about it. Again, we've had a good relationship with the current sheriff, but I think we're looking to, move forward with you and some of those.
I think even that
changes.
Perspective to see, as a deputy chief, to see the chiefs meetings and
because you've been going,
right?
It's a big part of it.
I'm a member of the FOP, the Shields, to see all our past members and different police officers from different law enforcement agencies together, telling their stories and their trials and tribulations is great.
I think there's a unique part of being a local police chief that sometimes you don't see. The state police or the sheriff's office, and I think being in those meetings with the chiefs, I think we see it with the state police where they'll hear something and they'll be like, oh, we can help with that. And I think that's where we'll benefit from you being on that other side of the table. Like there's that perspective that you'll have that.
That's half the battle, communication.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you do to de-stress? I mean, that's a big You're not a very right. You're still going, running. Are you getting ready to take a big vacation before the start?
We were going to, but a hurricane stopped us. So
okay.
A late hurricane.
And you probably owe your wife a good vacation,
Absolutely.
right? You probably owe the wife and the kids.
Yeah, we'll get something in. I have my father's work ethic. I show up to work. I like to get things done. I don't want to waste, see time get pushed away, but I want to get to work. And we have a lot of good ideas, and we want to get down to it.
It's an exciting time for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you have a book or a movie? Book or movie recommendation? You haven't done any of that, probably, right? In the last year.
Well, I read you pick up My Own Bullets when I went to the National Academy.
Okay.
And that's the person I am. I pick up the casings when I'm at the range.
Okay.
I'm actually kind of like we do the job. Like, I'm not going to ask our guys to do anything I wouldn't do.
Gotcha.
I still, like, as a deputy chief, I'll get down. I'll direct traffic if I have to. I'll help the guys out. Mm-hmm. So I'm that type of worker. So I've seen it from both sides, and I think that's encouraging to a lot of our workforce.
All right. So You grew up here. I always plug this book. I don't know why. I get no money for it. But do you remember Action Park, right? The original
My uncle used to take us there all the time.
Right. So there's a book. There's actually a documentary on HBO.
Thing full forward.
Right. And people would be getting hurt all over the place, right? It's
But we
great.
never saw the kids getting hurt.
No, I never did
until
either.
They put it on the movie.
Right. I saw the movie. I read the book, right? The book was the people. Actually, the book is written by the son of the owner, right? Who's now the person that developed it in the beginning and who's been deceased for a while. And yeah, same thing. Like I read that book. I'm like, holy cow! Like we used to go there. We never knew how dangerous it was. Like crazy. So
We didn't fear much then anyway. So.
that's probably true. That's probably true. Now I would have probably applied for a job in high school there if I knew it was as much fun as it was going to be. So check the book out.
Kids are missing out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, hey, I want to thank you for stopping by. I know you're crazy busy, and I appreciate you squeezing us in.
Once we're in there, and we'll go over a lot of the good things that we're doing.
Awesome. All right. Well, good luck. Have a happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon.
Same to you.
Thanks.